All right, so that's looking good. I'm just going to spray that with that coating. I did also fill the end of that channel iron. I'm not sure if they're even going in there or whatever, but I'm not gonna leave it open to find out. I wasn't going to bother with that, but then I realized that that's actually, the partition wall is hollow. So if they're getting inside that wall, they could come through that opening and get into here. So I'm gonna have to do that area also, and then I'll check from the bedroom side through that partition wall if there's a gap there. In other words, if I stick my finger up in here, I can actually feel, well, actually it feels like they put a wood block in there. There's wood blocking in there. Okay, so the mice can pass through here to get into the bedroom, but they can't get into the wall because of the blocking. And I don't feel any holes in the blocking, so we're gonna leave that alone. All right, and I just put a little piece of plastic down here, act as a little drip cloth so that I can spray the underside here. Some of it is actually already leaking through from the top where I sprayed it. That one looks pretty good. I'm gonna leave that one alone. This one I'm gonna get the foam, the steel wool there. I'm gonna hit that. All right, so that corner's looking good. And I think before I turn my attention to these right here, I'll show you how to finish taking this inverter out and look under there. So there's the power inverter. That's easy enough to remove. I've had that out before. So we're gonna take that out. But behind here, there's a wall. This is a compartment full of stuff. We never have problems with mice in there. There's no penetrations for them to get into in there. But behind this whole assembly right here is this wall. So this wall is a hollow partition right there, and they're probably going up that and getting into the ceiling up through there. To remove your power inverter, you open this door. And there's a screw here and a screw here. I'm going to unscrew these two screws, and this whole thing tilts out and comes out. It's actually pretty easy to remove. Now, once you take the... Why didn't he take the screws out? I told him to take those two screws out. All right, so once you take these two screws out, this comes off. When you put those screws back in, be careful, because those screws thread into these brass inserts. These brass inserts are plastic molded right into the plastic of these posts. And if you over tighten it, you'll break the post. These aren't very strong. That one broke. I had to epoxy it so that we could reattach this properly. So now, with that trim cover off, you can get to these big screws right here, 4 of them. And once you take those 4 out, this whole assembly will come out. So once you take the 4 screws out, you can carefully move this out of the way. And I can see mouse poop sitting on top of this plastic shelf area right there. A little bit of mouse poop there. And the interesting thing is, where I had sealed the holes previously, that's still intact. So they had gotten into this compartment since I did that work, and I don't know where they came in from. So now with this moved out of the way, I'm going to see if I could stick my head in from the other side and look up and see what I can see. All right, so I'm not surprised that there are no penetrations in the ceiling of that area, because the ceiling of this area actually acts as the bottom shelf area of that compartment above, that little storage closet. But right over here at the edge, you can see there's a chase right there that they just cut the Luan with a zip saw or a roto zip tool or something like that. Cut that all wide open, left that all wide open for these wires right here to run up. And you can see the whole bunch of wires running up there. That's all hollow, all wide open. Again, probably all the way up to the ceiling. All right, so I've got this whole area stuffed with this special steel wool, and now I've just got to give it a coating of that rubber sealant. All right, so that's what it looks like, all sealed. I almost forgot these two. All right, that's looking good. And as far as this area here goes, you can't see it, but what I did was I folded, I cut a piece of that material wide enough for that gap and then folded it over and stuffed it in there, and it fits in there good and tight. So they're gonna have to be pretty strong Mises to push that out. All right, so we got things well in hand there. We're putting those panels back in. We got all those holes sealed up. Of course, we already finished the outdoor kitchen. This door right here is for the outside refrigerator. And what that is it's just a like a dorm-sized refrigerator. This only works on 110 volts, so this refrigerator is not good for regular food, but it's just for like beverages and things like that. Strapped in here. This compartment is actually completely open to the underside of the whole kitchen counter and everything where the trash receptacle is. And we had regularly found mouse poop in here, and we cleaned this out and there's mouse poop again. So they've been in here again. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to unplug and unstrap this refrigerator and remove this refrigerator to open up this area. All right, so see the mouse poop here, mouse poop there. And you can see that this is actually completely, the back of this is completely open to the area under the sink. So all they did was they stuck this piece of plywood partition here to protect probably the sink plumbing a little bit from the refrigerator. Although I don't really know what much good that's going to do. They put this little stupid partition here, part way up. The trash bucket sits right here in this area where my hand is. And the cabinet door is actually right here. So I just open the cabinet door, okay? So it's not unusual for trash if the trash bucket has, somebody goes to throw something in there and they miss, or for whatever reason. Sometimes trash will fall out behind the refrigerator, which is kind of a pain in the butt. We've got mouse poop here. All right, so how are they getting in here? Well, let me count the ways. For starters, we've got this grill right here, ventilation grill. I'm assuming this is to ventilate the area where the refrigerator is, although I really don't see what purpose that serves, since, well, I guess because when the cabinet door is open, yeah, all right, that makes sense. So this is to ventilate the area for the refrigerator, to get rid of its heat, because the refrigerator basically has to get rid of its heat in order to keep everything inside cold. So we got mouse poop here on the carpet, so I'm going to get a flashlight. We're going to look around the corner. Now we're underneath the kitchen counter, so there's really there aren't going to be any openings up into the top there that way. But if we look around the corner here, this is the area where the heating system lives. All right, so we've got, well, look at that. There's a piece of trash right there. Juice box or juice pack. I don't know what that is. All right, so we got a little bit of mouse poop there. Not a lot of activity here. This, there's a pile of crap underneath there. I wonder if that's left over. I wonder if I never did get that vacuumed out under there. Although usually if I spot that kind of thing, I clean it out. If there are any openings in the floor besides these, I can't see them. And they did seem to do a pretty good job of sealing up around here. This is all factory. This isn't anything I did. And I don't see any holes chewed through it. So I think we're just going to clean this area out. And barring any other discoveries, we're going to assume that they came in through, hold the phone. There's a hole in that far wall. Huh. I wonder where that goes. Well, again, the heating system's in the way there, so not much we can do about looking past that. And we'll clean this all out. So here's what this kitchen area looks like from this side. So the problem is, if they can get into that area under there, well, then they can easily get into here. Even if the cabinet door's closed, they can use that big vent we just looked at. They can get into these drawers and nest. Although we usually don't find any evidence in these drawers, oddly enough. But we have seen them get into the utensil drawer, which is just gross and bothersome, because then we got to do a whole lot of cleaning and sanitizing. No evidence of them having gotten in there recently, though. That's good. So here's this vent. So this vent right here, which we're going to take off and take a look in there, this is where the heating system is. The furnace, the hot air furnace is in there. So those slots are there to let the air in. It's the return air for the heating system. So the thing I'm wondering is, I can look behind, when I was looking with the light behind, I could see that opening. That opening would be through, oddly enough, that would be through that side wall of the refrigerator section. But low down, which would be that compartment there, under that drawer. So let's pull that drawer out. There we go, mouse poop in the drawer. Dryer sheets. My wife read somewhere that dryer sheets are supposed to help keep them away. Well, here's your proof that that doesn't work. Alright, so I removed this drawer that had mouse poop in it. And behind here is a big old mess. We got a lot of mouse poop, a lot of debris, a lot of sawdust that's probably left over from the actual construction. Well, it's obvious there's a huge opening right there around that pipe. Now that's the drain pipe from the indoor, from the outside kitchen. But that's not the wall that I already blocked. That is a wall into the next compartment. But I took this drawer out, and we've never had any mice evidence in this drawer. And the reason why is because this, interestingly enough, is constructed differently. There is a plywood wall back to this cabinet. We've never had a problem with mice in these drawers, or the upper cabinet for that matter, where we keep a lot of the groceries. So they actually have a false wall there. So behind that false wall, there's a big opening, a big space, and who knows what might be lurking behind there. We're going to block that hole up for sure, because I don't know whether or not there's anything. And I would love to be able to see behind that wall. And the only way I'm going to look behind that wall is if I take out that wood cleat, all the drawer slides, and then maybe I could get that piece of plywood out and peek behind it. So I was interested about the construction of this thing, so I took out the top drawer and look in the back of the top drawer. There, the plywood back they put in there doesn't go all the way to the top. So if a mouse was able to scale the plywood, so I guess the reason why they haven't gotten in here, in these drawers, in this compartment, is because they apparently aren't able to climb that piece of plywood from the back. But that still begs the question, what is behind that wall? And the only way I'm going to find that out, I don't have a scope, so I can't put a scope behind there. See, I could probably get a mirror and reflect some light down there, and I could probably look with a mirror and see if I can see if there's a hole, any other holes. If there are no holes in the floor or openings in the floor, then I could be confident that closing up that opening into the underside of the outdoor kitchen and closing up this other side over here will suffice to keep mice out of there. All right, so I'm going to position my flashlight in this opening to light that area of mystery. And then I'm going to come in here and put my mirror in here. And I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but that gives me a good look into that compartment. And I could see there is debris in there. And there may or may not even be some mouse poop in there. But more importantly, I can see where the pipe goes through to the outdoor kitchen. I can see my steel wool protruding out, blocking that hole, which is good. And I can see there are no holes in the floor. So, having that sealed up right there, I could actually stop right there. But just for the giggles, I think I'm going to patch that hole also. Give them one less compartment they can nest in. Because if they come in from that opening right there, if they somehow get into the trailer another way and they go through that opening and get into this cavity right here, it'll make a nice nesting area. I'm actually surprised there isn't a nest in there now. So, all right, so that should take care of this opening over here on this side. There's a penetration through the floor right here. That's actually factory sealed nicely, and there's no evidence that they came through there. There's a large floor penetration here where that's the drain from the outdoor kitchen, comes into a T and goes down through the floor right there. That also is factory sealed correctly. Looks good. Then we've got a T here, and this pipe going up. This pipe must go up. It goes through an opening there. Where's that going? Oh, that's in this area right to the left of the refrigerator, going up to probably a vent on the roof. Yeah, there's a roof vent in that proximity there. So we're going to have to seal that. Going to seal that, and then there's a bundle of cables right there. We're going to seal that. And there's a bundle of Romex cable right there. We're going to seal that. And then there's another, this must be the sink drain. That must be the sink drain. So that goes behind the stove and over to pick up the sink. So I don't think we need to bother sealing that because that goes into that huge area under the sink. All right, in other words, here's the sink drains. They go right there and they go behind there. This is all open. Pretty much all wide open right there. Oh, hold on. There's an opening that goes through right there. So there is a... it's possible. Hold on. There's a possible dead space behind this stove that would concern me. Well, you know what? We're going to take off this grate right here and take a look in there. So here's the compartment where the furnace is. And there's really not much to see in here. There's that pipe from that we saw on the other side there. So I'm not going to be able, all of the duct work is in the way. I love how they put this in here. Look at this duct right here, and you wonder why the airflow is so lousy to some of the rooms. This duct right here is crushed by almost probably 50% to fit in this area right here. So you might as well just like forget about any decent airflow out of there. Well, all right, so when I shake these ducts up here, I can definitely hear debris in there, probably mouse poop. And when I look down in here, I can see quite a bit of mouse poop. So they've gotten into this duct work. Unfortunately, the way this is constructed, it's very difficult to get this apart. I can't get a hose in there to even vacuum it because the heat exchange is completely in the way. I can't disconnect the hose because the hose is put onto a pipe nipple basically and then taped on with foil tape. So I'm not going to be able to undo that without taking the whole heater out, I don't think. And that involves disconnecting the gas line, and that's just a major job that I do not want to get into right now. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to do something because when you turn the heating system on, that's blowing all of that air from dried mouse poop and everything into the rooms, which is not healthy to breathe. So the stereo just came on again. It's now occurring to me that if they've been getting up into this chase behind there that I just blocked off, it's quite possible that they've chewed wiring back there, and that might be why the stereo is actually coming on. It's kind of a long shot. Might be worth checking into. And then that also leads me to believe that I need to take down the flat screen TV and get that panel that blocks that whole corner off out, because I got a sneaking suspicion that they may be behind there. Okay, I decided I'm going to remove the stereo unit to see what's behind there. I know there's an opening behind there, but I want to see if there's any mouse, evidence of any mouse activity back there. So to take the stereo off, you gotta pop off this plastic bezel. It just comes right off. And that reveals 4 screw holes with square drive screws in them that are recessed. Oddly enough, there's 4 holes, but there were only 3 screws. They never bothered putting this one in. I don't even think they drilled for it. Alright, so there's plenty of wire, so I could just put that up on the shelf out of the way. There was no evidence of mouse poop on top of the radio itself, but down inside this compartment, there definitely is. Furthermore, turns out there's just a giant hole that they made in the back of this whole compartment that opens up a huge bay behind the shower. And they're using that to run several electrical cables and other wires of all types up and down between the ceiling and the bottom down there somewhere. So hopefully all of these wires that I'm seeing right here, they all hopefully go down through holes that I've patched already that I found down by the yeah, these all probably run down to the inverter, so that should be okay. As far as holes they go through into the ceiling, there's not much I can do about that because they're behind the shower. There's like virtually no way for me to get behind there and patch that. That's a mess. And then if I look over to the left side on the inside, you can see that again they just routed out a big hole in the side of this compartment, much larger than they ever needed. They just routed out the whole section. And for what? And to run, what do they got running through here? If I can get the light on it. Not much, hardly any cables. So I just realized a lot of this wiring that I'm seeing down here and that void is actually for this control panel right here and the switches and everything that are on that. So if I take this panel out, I can actually clean that out even easier. Well, I'm going to rely on the fact that the bottom of this chase right here is now blocked. I blocked that with that fiber, that steel wool. I'm going to rely on that, keeping them from coming up that way. Again, I can't stop them from coming in through the ceiling, whatever messes up underneath there. I'll just use the hose on the vacuum, get that little bit of mouse poop that I can see down there out, so that if I continue to have a problem and I investigate later and I find more mouse poop in here, I'll know that they're coming in still probably from the ceiling. Alright, so this is what the back of this looks like. This is all that wiring that I saw through this hole. So now you can see the floor in there a lot easier. You can clearly see. There's mouse poop there in the corner and there's debris. Alright, but the main point is that this big hole at the factory cut for these lousy few wires that are going down there, the bottom of that is now blocked off with the steel wool product, so they shouldn't be able to come back up through there, so I'm not going to bother blocking that. And I really can't do much about this disaster here. I'm going to take that TV down. I'm hoping I just have to lift up on it to get it to come off because I can't quite see any other way it's bolted up there. Alright, so I removed the flat screen TV. You gotta take the security strap off, and then you have to lift up on the TV and pop it away. It disengages these connections here on the bracket. So that's why it has this strap. Normally in your house, obviously you wouldn't have to worry about it bouncing up and down, I guess, unless you lived in an earthquake area. But going down the road, this strap is what keeps it from possibly bouncing actually out of that engagement point right there and falling down and breaking. But taking the TV off, once you get that off, balance it up here and then reach behind. You got a coax connection to remove a composite video and left and right stereo and a power cable, and that exposes this huge hole, which is what I wanted to get to. And I can't really see, can't tell if that's mouse poop in there or not, but there's a lot of shredded foam. That could be left over from construction, I guess. There's a hole right there, and another hole right there that looks like, oh, okay, they've actually got a strap holding that cable in place for some reason. So I'm going to block these holes for sure, because those go into that bay behind the shower. Alright, so I just finished taking care of the last two openings that I found. This should keep the mice from being able to get into this dead area behind the TV panel and then climbing out through this big hole onto this shelf. Although we've never seen evidence of mouse poop up on the top of this shelf or anything. But there was mouse poop in that corner, definitely. So they had gotten in there. Of course, they could still, if they can get into the ceiling some other way, then they could still come down behind that shower wall. Hopefully, the other openings that I closed off will stop them. But I think I'm going to quit here because I've been at this all day long. The next step, I think, is going to be to drop the belly on the trailer and see if I see any, if I could figure out where they may be coming in there. I do know one spot I'll show you right now. Okay, so the belly of the trailer is covered, the entire belly of this trailer has this plastic sheet along the bottom of it that's bolted to the bottom. It's got some areas where it was damaged, where I've taped it with extra wide Gorilla Tape and things like that. But all of that is really pointless because once they get onto the tires and they walk along this frame, they're going to come along and they're going to discover these huge holes where the it's almost like a torsion bar or adjusting bar for the slide outs poke through the frame. Let me get a better angle. There you go. So there's a hole right there in the frame. That's small potatoes compared to this hole right here. So I've got to come up with some sort of a system to cover that hole. I could just stuff aluminum foil in there for the winter, but I'd actually like to see whether or not I can come up with some sort of a cover that might move out with the bar on the slide out, so that it actually, when the slide out closes, it automatically covers that hole. That might not be a bad idea if I can rig something up like that. Right over here near the slice valve control for the galley, there is another large hole. Looks like maybe they intended to have another valve control there for maybe they use this same frame on some trailers that have two controls in the back here. So that's another large opening. And down this other end of the slider, we have another one of those really, really large holes for the slide out. So I'm lying under the trailer, looking up at the belly and up in the front. This is a metal floor. This is all metal right here, which is acts as the floor of the front compartment, which is great. The problem is, here you can see where, for some reason, they notched out a big section of the plastic right there. Now, I had a piece of Gorilla Tape in there sealing that, and I could see that had fallen off at some point. You can see the tape residue. So I'm gonna we'll have to get some steel wool and stuff it in there and see if we can't get that to reseal. But that's just one of several examples of places where they just left big holes in this this membrane, which is a corrugated plastic product. It's almost like cardboard the way that it's made, but it's made out of plastic.